Y'all, thank you for the testimony today and the conversation on it. The price fixing conversation has been a common conversation. Obviously, Vice President Harris is recommended price fixing on all grocery prices to be able to manage the prices of inflation, as the IRA did price fixing for medications and picked certain medications to be able to go after. I appreciate your testimony, Ms. Aiken, on Enbrel in particular, because that is one of the frustrating drugs that's out there that, quite frankly, Congress needs to act on two different big issues. One of them is the patent thicket that's been out there. It's been out there 30 plus years at this point and continues to be able to just change slightly on the way it's actually delivered to be able to protect its patent, to be able to keep it from actually getting a generic or biosimilar opportunity. That's something that Congress needs to be able to fix, is the thicketing issue that happens. The second issue is the PBM issue there. They've been able to benefit greatly from huge rebates that they're actually given to be able to maintain their market. The PBM piece is a piece that we brought up over and over and over again. This committee has spoken out on. That bill has not been brought to the floor. It is a bipartisan solution to be able to deal with at least some of the PBM issues that are out there, to be able to try to give not just prices on 10 drugs that the federal government selects, but to give greater competition on thousands of drugs that are out there. And so I think the solution does need to be doing price fixing on 10 drugs. It needs to be, how do we get greater competition for all drugs that are out there, and to be able to push back on that. So let me just ask a couple of questions. Ms. Axelson, you brought this up several times on the issue of local pharmacies, of access points, and of also this issue about the PBMs. What is it that needs to be done specifically in the PBMs to try to bring down prices and increase competition for not only pharmacies, but for access for drugs in particular to consumers?
I think a number of these policy reforms are under consideration, but it's ensuring that the significant discounts that are offered on these medicines are passed through in some way to reducing the cost sharing for patients. When a drug company goes to get access for a medicine, the incentives are not in place for a cheap drug to get access. A drug with a high list price and a big rebate is what can get access on a formulary. And those rebates are not always passed through to the patient at point of sale. They may reduce the premiums, but they don't necessarily reduce the cost of the drug for that patient.
Yeah, and it's been our frustration that we've not been able to get that PBM bill to the floor, actually, and it's something that we've got to actually get a real vote on to be able to move this out of this committee and actually to be able to get that moving, because there are a lot of our independent pharmacies and, quite frankly, every single consumer that will benefit from action on that. One of the challenges on the IRA bill in particular, as I've talked to some of the different drug researchers out there, is a declining number of drugs that are going to go into research or into research for additional purposes. The IRA said if there are multiple different uses for this drug, they're a candidate for it. So if it's a single treatment issue, there's no incentive to say, will it also work for another drug? I spoke recently with a researcher that said, we think this drug will work on a different type of cancer, and this one in particular, but we're holding on it because we don't know what the price controls are going to do long term, and we're trying to figure out the next step on that. We've seen this on the research. CBO estimated that there'd be about 15 drugs that would not come to market in the next 30 years, but according to the latest tracker, there's already 21 drugs that have already backed off. No, it's not in the next 30 years. That was in the first 2 years on this. So just in your own research on this issue, are we about to limit the number of drugs coming to market? What are you seeing in the R&D side of things right now in the the clinical trials?
The most efficient type of drug development is finding a new use for an existing drug. It's cheaper, it's faster, it relies on existing safety and efficacy data. That's exactly the kind of drug development that is deterred by this law. A significant portion of drugs for cancer, for rare disease, for cardiovascular disease, for HIV are studied in the post-market context. If you felt that price controls were the right thing to do in Medicare, you could not have designed them in a worse way. This is encouraging inefficient drug development, and it needs to be reformed so that the price control is affecting true market failures, not the most efficient and effective types of drug development.
Okay. Thank you all for your testimony on this. This will be one of those issues that Congress has got to continue to be able to act on the PBM bill, that we're all pushing to be able to get it out there. We've got to deal with the patent thicketing. That's been an issue for a very long time. And we've got to get what we're not talking about today as well is the ingredients that are coming from China and the competition on generics that we've got to be able to make sure that we're protecting. That's another issue that this committee has got to be able to take out to protect lower prices for seniors.
Yeah,